All right, guys. So the $39 Moondrop Marigold, which is the pair of in-ears that we're talking about today, that by the end of the review, I kind of felt like everyone should own a pair of in-ears like this. But at the same time, I also felt like nobody is going to be interested in this, or at least it's for a very niche market, for a couple of things. One, it is a wired connection, and most people right now are looking for wireless options. And another thing is the wired option that it is a USB-C connection, where if most people are looking for a wired connection, they're just looking for standard headphone jacks or just any kind of jacks to be able to plug into an amp. But I still feel like there are huge benefits to using a USB-C connection, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the video. Now, they do use a 10mm dynamic driver that has a beryllium plated dome composite diaphragm. It also uses the N52 magnets, which are very good at cutting out any kind of distortion. They are also using an asymmetrical cable, so everything kind of leans a little bit to the left side. This is where it has the controller box, which gives you your play, your pause, your volume control, your track controls. Now, I actually couldn't get this to work with my Pixel 10 Pro, so I don't know if there's some Android compatibility issues, so do keep that in mind. This is also where your microphone is located as well. Now, because it uses the USB-C connection, it has its own sound card built in, and it actually has 32-bit playback at 384 kilohertz. So this is definitely above what you're going to get with most true wireless earbuds. This gives you basically an analog type sound where nothing sounds compressed, nothing sounds like overly digital. And with Spotify now having lossless playback, this is a pretty good combination to have this type of sound card and this type of playback with using Spotify. Now, another huge benefit to having the USB-C connection is it does also work with Moondrop's app. Now, although the app itself only has like a few pre-built EQ options, it's actually in reference out of the box. There's even a first-person shooter EQ setting, because this pair is really good for gaming, and we'll talk about why that is once we talk about the sound. But having access to Moondrop's app also means you have access to all of the user-uploaded EQs, and some of the ones that the company has put in there themselves. Now, I found that the Harman Target EQ was perfect with these. Now, I do want to say this: if you are going to use some of those EQ options that are uploaded, take these in-ears out of your ears, because I noticed that switching from the pre-built EQ settings over to those, it has like this really loud pop that initially takes place once it switches over to those EQ settings. So you do not want these in your ears when you switch over to that. Now, inside the box, it does come with this little tiny envelope looking pouch. It is very thin. It's almost as thin as paper, and it has like a pleather feel to it. And then also in the box, they do give you 3 sets of silicone ear tips. And then outside of that, you don't really get anything other than some documentation. Now, another huge plus with these is the microphone. It is using a MEMS microphone. This is a very good mic to use for not only taking phone calls, but also for gaming. And they are also using a neural processing unit to kind of block out a lot of the sounds around you and just kind of focus in on your voice. Really, this is what they're calling AI to be able to do this, but you guys can be a judge by listening to a test here.
So here is a quick mic test outdoors using the Marigold. I do hear some birds not too far from here. It's not really a windy day, but I can also kind of hear the air conditioner unit off to the side. And this is just to give you an idea of what it would sound like if you were to take a call public.
So now let's talk about the sound. Now, the sound, the way that it is out of the box, like I said, it's in that reference EQ, is actually really good. But again, I went in and downloaded the Harman Target EQ setting. Again, there's a lot of them that you can download and just kind of play around with. But when I had it in that EQ setting, it just brought everything out. It made it way more dynamic, and it definitely even bumped up the volume quite a bit as well. So it does pay off to kind of play around with the different EQ settings. But in the Harman Target, it definitely gave these some punch. Now, this is not going to be, sloppy or loose bass. So if you're a bass head or you're wanting something like that, it doesn't have that. It does have a nice impact to it, but everything about these are fast. Everything about these are pretty accurate. The mids on these sound fantastic. In fact, this was a pair that I could find myself gravitating towards if I'm really wanting to pay attention to vocals, like really just pick apart things and hear like some subtle characteristics and vocalists, this pair is just really good for that. And it also does really good with acoustic instruments, so acoustic guitars, different strings, everything just sounds really good in this range. So it does kind of sound like the mids are bumped up slightly forward, just to kind of keep it from getting lost in everything. And the treble on these also have a nice bright approach, but it never got to that point of being harsh. So it doesn't have like that sibilant sound with the S's. It's not ear fatiguing. It is a pair that you can sit there and just listen to all day. And you can do that because you don't have to rely on a battery, so you don't have to worry about charging these. It's just going to rely on the power of whatever source it's plugged into. And then another huge thing is the sound stage, the sound imaging. Something about the acoustics of this IEM or in-ear or whatever you want to call it, it sounds really open, and it is just so good at being able to tell where different sounds are coming from. I was just blown away by the sound quality. And again, just being able to plug into whatever device, because everything at this point uses a USB-C connection, it seems like. So you can plug it into your iPhone or plug it into like my Pixel 10 Pro or a tablet or your PC. You don't feel like you're limited because of the type of connection that it has. So my overall opinion is this. At $39, I think this is an absolute steal. I actually like the fact that it uses that USB-C wired connection because I don't have to worry about charging these, and I can just plug them into whatever and I'm good to go. Now, I know some people are not going to like, having the cable, hanging out of their pocket if they're going to be plugged into their phone. So I kind of get that. This may just be a pair that you want to use while stationary, but also keep in mind, this is how people used to listen to stuff all the time. You always had that wire. And the benefits here is, again, you don't have to worry about charging. You're getting very, very clean sound, really no compression. I didn't notice any kind of compression in these. I didn't have any kind of distortion. They were very powerful. And at the end of the review, I'm just kind of left speechless that these are only $39. So yeah, this one comes in with a very high recommendation. Again, although I know a lot of people are not going to be looking for this type of product, I really recommend checking them out. But guys, that wraps up my video on the Moondrop Marigold. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.